Welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, helping you to prepare to take the PMP exam with your host, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, the future of PMP exam preparation. I am your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. This episode is an overview of the Project Integration Management knowledge area. We will look at why we have it, what we do, and the concepts that you must know for your PMP exam. Here are the learning goals. At the end of this episode, you should be able to explain the integrative nature of project management. You will also be able to name the processes of project integration management. You will be able to give a high-level description of the project charter, and you can define integrated change control. But let us start out with a definition. Project integration management includes all the processes and activities that are needed to identify, combine, define, unify, and coordinate the various processes and project management activities within the project management process groups. So what does this mean? Well, let's take a look at the PMBOK guide for this explanation, because in the guide you will find over 40 processes that tell you how to execute various aspects on your project. For instance, how to create a risk management plan or how to control your schedule. The processes, they sometimes seem rather all over the place and unconnected, yet somehow you as the project manager will have to bring them all together. You have to be the conductor who stands in front of the orchestra and tells them to play. And this is what integration management will help you do. Understanding integration management is not difficult. The processes are easily understood and brought into relation with the rest of the PMBOK guide, and your project as well. It is much more difficult to actually execute them during a project. Project integration management is the only knowledge area that has a process in each of the 5 process groups. It starts out with develop project charter, which is in initiation. Then we have develop project management plan. Well, it does have the word plan in the name, therefore it goes in the planning process group. Direct and manage project execution has the word execution in the name, therefore it goes into the executing process group. Monitor and control project work, you could have guessed that one, goes into monitoring and controlling. Perform integrated change control also is monitoring and controlling. And lastly, close project or phase. Well, it's a dead giveaway, isn't it? It goes into the closing process group. Let's take a brief look at each of these 6 processes individually. It starts out with develop project charter. This is the process of developing a document that formally authorizes a project or a phase and documents the initial requirements that satisfy the stakeholders' needs and expectations. Develop project management plan is the process of documenting the actions that are necessary to define, prepare, integrate, and coordinate all the subsidiary plans. Then we have direct and manage project execution. This is the process of performing the work defined in the project management plan to achieve the project's objectives. This is then followed by monitor and control project work. That is the process of tracking, reviewing, and regulating the progress to meet the performance objectives defined in the project management plan. Perform integrated change control. That is the process where you review all change requests, approve changes, and manage changes to the deliverables, organizational process assets, project documents, and the project management plan. And finally, close project or phase. That's the process of finalizing all activities across all of the project management process groups to formally complete the project or the phase. We continue by looking what it is that we do as we manage projects. The project manager and the project team will have to make decisions on a day-to-day basis in order to execute the project with the goal of delivering what was agreed upon. For instance, there may be competing objectives on the project. Maybe you have an objective about integrating a specific new technology into the result, but on the other hand, you had a highly aggressive deadline. Here you will have to make the appropriate decisions on how much of this new technology can be integrated in the available schedule. There is no process in the PMP guide that tells you how to do this, and therefore you will find that the mechanics of project management, yes, they are explained in the various processes, but the art of project management isn't explained. And while we are talking about the processes for the exam, it is important to realize that you must perform them all. You cannot just simply cut out a process here or there just because it looks like you don't need that particular process on the project. Instead, the idea is that the project management team decides how much and to what depth each of the processes will be used. For instance, in many cases it is clear that there is a strong desire that a particular project result will be built in-house without the need for vendors. That doesn't mean that you can simply cut out project procurement management. You should at least do your due diligence and properly go through the plan, purchases and acquisitions processes from project procurement management in order to make a proper make or buy decision. Once you have that decision, you can then decide how much or how little of the remaining project procurement processes are required on your particular project.
There's another important note about processes, and that is on how they interact. If you look at the PMP guide, you might get the opinion that project management is a neat and orderly thing. But as soon as you get out into a real project, you will see that it is not as clear-cut. Processes interact with each other in many more ways than shown in the PMP guide. In the guide, it looks like we have a nice jigsaw puzzle. In real life, each project is like a town with buildings and roads and buses and people and nightclubs and shops and cinemas. And all of them interact with each other in uncounted and sometimes unpredictable ways. And the PMP guide tries to make you aware of this. The third figure in most chapters about the project management processes is the process flow diagram that depicts all processes and how they interact. But you must understand that not all process interactions and data flow among the processes are shown. And I think that you can also find a statement about process interactions in every knowledge area chapter. The statement says something like this: the processes may be presented here as unique and separate with, it may appear that they have, specified boundaries. In practice, they intersect and interact in many more ways. After all, the PMP guide is just a guide, a body of knowledge. It doesn't claim to contain every last bit on project management know-how and practical application.
And our guest presenter was Mark Perry, who is the Senior Vice President of Operations for BOT International, the firm that provides Processes on Demand, a PMO content asset solution containing project management processes and templates, policies and dashboards, guidance and learning resources used by hundreds of PMOs out there. And you may even know Mark from something else he does. He is the host of the PMO podcast. Let's now take a look at a few key concepts from project integration management that you will need to know for the exam. The first process in integration management is develop project charter. You must understand the purpose of this document. The project charter is the document that formally authorizes a project. It presents the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to the project. In other words, you as the project manager receive the charter, and based on the charter, you are now allowed to spend time and money on this project. Also important to know is the fact that the project manager should be assigned prior to the start of planning, and preferably as you are creating this charter. The charter is in fact such an important document that we do have a separate episode in which we discuss the details. Integration is a central process in project management, as you will have to consolidate and integrate many project management actions that are necessary to deliver the product. You will have to make decisions as to where you need to apply resources, and you will have to revisit these decisions almost daily. You manage stakeholder expectations and you anticipate potential issues. Almost the whole project comes together here in integration. This makes it a key process, so you should definitely understand inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs for each process. The planning process group is one of the largest of the 5 process groups that we have. Why do we have it? What is the goal of all of this planning? Well, from a project point of view, the goal is to better define what we need to deliver, but also how we are going to deliver it. What we deliver is primarily defined in the project scope, but also in the budget, where we say how much it will cost, in the schedule, where we say when it will be done, and in the quality management plan, when we say at what grade we will be delivering a result. The how is defined in all your various plans. For instance, the staffing management plan will tell you the processes that you will perform in order to put a team of specialists together that can deliver the what. It might say that we will primarily try to assign internal resources. Then we will look for appropriate consultants, and we will also need to employ 3 new engineers for project-specific research and design. So the what and the how is what we do in planning. The primary output of planning is, of course, the project management plan, or in some of the processes it's an update to the already existing plan. We have a separate episode just on the project management plan, so for now let me just say that the project management plan is not a single document. Instead, it integrates a number of subsidiary plans, like the staffing management plan or the quality management plan, as well as other important documents for the project. And it is probably the single most important document on the project, and that makes it extremely important for the PMP exam. So much for the project management plan. Another important cornerstone of project management are historical files. We also know these as the lessons learned files, and they are part of the organizational process assets. Here are some key points to remember in regards to lessons learned and historical files. It is your professional responsibility to hold lessons learned meetings and document project results for the future. This historical information is often a focus on sample questions. Historical information is important and helpful input from other project managers regarding successes and failures on their projects. It enables you to rely on best practices that have worked for them in the past. You can rely on this as a reference. Creating this historical information is an important output of the close project process. As a matter of fact, it's the last one listed because it is one of the last things that you should do on the project. After all is said and done, you should document what has been said and what has been done. Configuration management and the change control system are other areas to understand. We discussed them in not just one, but 2 episodes, so you can see that it's important and that you should understand their purpose. The configuration management system, that is the system in which you define what your final product will look like in specific and technical detail. For instance, if you build a house, the plans and drawings will be part of the configuration management system because they describe exactly what you will build. They show how your house is currently configured. And the change control system is the set of procedures and processes that you need to apply in order to make a change. For instance, if you want to add another bathroom to the house, you will have to invoke this change control system in order to make the appropriate updates to the current configuration of your house. And this takes us seamlessly to the integrated change control system. This is also one of the major systems on a project because change is inevitable. At some point during the project, someone is going to want to make a change, either increase the scope or reduce the scope, or maybe we find that our quality management processes don't work the way that we had envisioned, so we must make a change to the actual process. That is when you need a change control system. Without it, change will be rampant on the project. Everyone will add or remove parts and nobody will be able to keep track of anything. At its core, a change control system is very simple. If you want to make a change, fill in a form. This form will be reviewed and then either approved or denied. If it is approved, we will integrate it into the project. If it is denied, we will give you a reason for denying it. And that's it in a very basic form. When it comes to change requests, they can be verbal, but should better be in writing. You can get these change requests from internal resources like your stakeholder or from external resources, such as government agencies or new laws. That is why some change requests are mandatory, but nevertheless, they have to go through the integrated change control system that you see here, where their effects on the rest of the project will also be evaluated. For instance, a change in law may result in added project complexity and increased cost for the implementation, but your stakeholder may not be willing to pay for this additional cost, so therefore the decision is made to cancel the project. That is why every change must be fed into the integrated change control system. And by the way, it's the same with emergency change requests. If there is an emergency, go ahead and implement the change right away, but then follow the appropriate procedure and feed the change request into this system here for review after the fact. And finally, we have the 2 closure activities. They are close project or phase and close procurements. Close procurements is performed once for each of your contracts. And to make sure that you don't forget any steps to properly close it, you will rely on a checklist called the contract closure procedure. Close project or phase, on the other hand, is performed once for every project phase and once for the complete project. A lot of expert judgment is needed during this process to make sure that nothing gets forgotten and that the project or phase is closed according to all the relevant standards and procedures that we should be following in our organization. So, what types of questions do we see in sample tests, online, or in books? The simplest one that we found asks, what does project integration management consist of? The answers, however, they weren't a list of the processes in the knowledge area, but they offered the various concepts that you had to select from. So you really must understand what the goal of these processes is, and not just their names. You can expect questions that test your understanding of the various tools and techniques employed during integration. For instance, which system will help you in project execution? That would be the project management information system. Or which system will help keep the project scope under control? That would be the integrated change control system. And of course, the configuration management system is the place where your project's product is described in detail. As a general rule, questions on integration management focus on the integrative nature of the process and also test your understanding that you must follow the appropriate procedures in order to successfully complete the project. One of the students of the Prepcast said it like this: the project management Prepcast does spell out the concepts from the PMBOK guide really well, but what counts on the PMP exam sample questions is how well you understand, interpret and analyze the situational questions, and based on the learned concepts are then able to decide which is the most appropriate answer. And this concludes our overview of project integration management. But before we go, here is another PMP exam tip for you. So what if you fail the exam? What can you do? Well, let's start at the beginning. After the exam, you will be given a score report, which will show you in which of the domains you were proficient, moderately proficient, or below proficient. That way you can see in which of the domains you had a problem and failed the exam. This is important information for you so that you can prepare properly for next time. If you believe that there was an actual mistake during your exam or on your score report, then you can challenge the result. The PMI certification program is administered and supervised at the Global Operations Center. All challenges to the certification program are governed by their comprehensive and exclusive rules of the PMI Certification Governance Council's Certification Appeals Procedure. The appeals procedure is the only method to review all decisions made by the certification department regarding applications, eligibility, examinations, test administrations and results, and other application or testing related certification issues or challenges or complaints. So that was the highly complex administrative process of how to challenge your exam result. Since you have not passed the exam on your first attempt, you may now retest. You are granted a 1-year eligibility period in which to pass the examination. During this period, you may take the examination up to 3 times. So plan your time carefully to leave enough time during the period to possibly retake the exam. If you fail the exam 3 times within this 1 year, you must then wait 1 year from the date of your last exam until you can reapply to take the PMP exam again. Here are the re-examination fees at the time when we recorded this episode. If you're a member, it'll cost you $275, 230 euros to take it again. If you are not a PMI member, it'll cost you $375 US, which is 315 euros. Please look into the PMP Credentials Handbook to see the most current prices. Well, and what is the best way not to fail? Well, simple. Read the PMBOK guide at least twice. Have a sound study plan. Buy a PMP preparation book. Take a lot of sample tests. And of course, use the Project Management Prepcast. Until next time.